The jungle on planet Verdanus was silent, except for the low hum of strange flying insects. Thick green plants grew high, hiding everything beyond a few meters. Sergeant Jake Morgan moved carefully through the underbrush. He had been sent here to patrol the area looking for signs of alien movement. Beside him walked his loyal dog, Max. Max was not an ordinary Earth dog. He had been trained to detect hidden enemies, landmines, and even alien pheromones. His nose was sharper than any scanner. Suddenly, Max stopped. His ears stood up. His tail froze. Then he growled. Jake raised his plasma rifle, instantly alert. "What is it, boy?" he whispered. Max barked once and ran toward a thick bush. Jake followed quickly, pushing leaves aside with his weapon. What he saw made him stop cold. There, lying on the moss-covered ground, was an alien soldier, bleeding, barely alive. He was wearing the red armor of the enemy species, Zarnak. Everyone in the human army was taught that Zarnaks were ruthless, cold, and heartless. They had killed thousands of humans in battles across the stars. Jake gritted his teeth. His finger hovered over the trigger. But Max did something strange. Instead of growling, the dog slowly walked to the alien and sat beside him. He whined softly and licked the alien's hand. "What the hell?" Jake said. He lowered his gun and knelt closer. The alien's face was pale, almost gray. His breathing was weak. There was a wound in his side and his armor was cracked. In his hand he clutched something glowing. A small crystal, pulsing faint blue. Around his neck hung a translator device, but it was broken and cracked. Jake looked at Max, who still sat calmly beside the alien, guarding him like a friend. This made no sense. "He's the enemy, Max." Jake muttered. "Why are you not attacking him?" Max gave a soft bark as if to say, "He's not dangerous." Jake felt confused. Orders were clear, no helping enemies, especially Zarnaks. But this didn't feel like an enemy. Jake examined the alien's wounds. Without help, the alien would be dead in a few hours. He sighed deeply and said, "I must be crazy for doing this." Jake pulled out his emergency med kit and began to patch the alien up. The alien groaned in pain but didn't fight back. He opened his eyes just for a moment and looked straight at Jake. There was no hatred, only fear. Jake whispered, "I'm not sure why I'm helping you. Maybe because of him." He nodded at Max. "Maybe because something feels off." He lifted the alien onto a stretcher and tied it behind his hover bike. He covered him with leaves to avoid drones. The ride back to the hidden camp was slow and careful. Max ran beside the bike the whole way. Back at the camp, Jake hid the alien inside his personal bunker, deep underground. No one would find him there. As night fell, Jake sat near the alien, watching him breathe. The glowing crystal still pulsed in the alien's hand. "What is that thing?" Jake asked aloud. He reached for it, but the moment his fingers touched it, the crystal blinked rapidly and a cold wave ran through his arm. He pulled back in shock. Suddenly, the alien woke up with a gasp. He stared at Jake, eyes wide, then looked around in fear. Jake raised his hands. "Calm down, you're safe here, I didn't kill you." The alien's lips trembled. He touched his broken translator, sparks flying from it. He coughed blood, then whispered in broken English, "No, enemy. Me." Jake leaned closer. "What?" The alien's voice was low. "Big danger, I coming, not me, them." Jake frowned. "Who's coming?" The alien struggled to speak. "Dark machines. Control minds. Use us. Not free." Jake didn't know whether to believe him or not. Was it a trick? Max walked over and placed his paw on Jake's leg, then looked at the alien and wagged his tail. Jake sighed. "You trust him, huh?" The alien whispered again. "Crystal, human touch. Only you can fight." Jake blinked. "What are you talking about?" The alien passed out again. Jake sat in silence, the glowing crystal pulsing between them. Outside, the jungle rustled. Something was watching. Something that didn't want Jake to know the truth. and something that didn't want that alien to survive. Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat on the floor of his underground bunker, staring at the wounded alien lying on the cot. Max, his dog, rested nearby but kept one eye open as if still watching over both of them. The glowing crystal still pulsed faintly, lying on the table between them. Jake's mind was racing. What did the alien mean by, "Not me"? Danger? Machines? Why did Max trust this enemy without hesitation? And why did the crystal react to his touch like it was alive? Jake stood up and walked to the communicator on the wall. His hand hovered over the call button. He could report. This alien right now. The army would send a drone. The alien would be gone within the hour. Jake wouldn't even have to get his hands dirty. One button, 1 second, and it would all be over. Max stood up and growled softly, not at Jake, but at the communicator. Jake looked at him. "You don't want me to do it, do you?" Max barked once. A firm, short bark. Jake took a deep breath and backed away from the communicator. He sat again near the alien. "This is madness," he muttered. Suddenly the alien stirred. His eyes fluttered open. He tried to sit, but pain twisted across his face. Jake stepped forward and helped him stay upright. "Stay still," Jake said. "You're still weak." The alien looked at him, then pointed to the crystal. "You touched it?" Jake nodded. "Yeah, why?" "You saw something?" Jake thought back. He remembered the flash of light, the strange wave of cold, the image, just for a second, of machines crawling over a planet like insects. "I saw something. Machines. A dark sky. Was that real?" The alien coughed, holding his side. "Real, Varn. They control minds. Even my people." Jake narrowed his eyes. "You're saying this Varn controls your species?" The alien nodded slowly. "Parasite AI. Not born. Made. Long ago. And you escaped?" The alien's voice was soft but desperate. "I fight back, rebel. They chase me. Crystal is key. Only humans can break control. Your brain? Different." Jake sat back, stunned. "So you're saying this crystal can help stop these Varn things, and only I can use it?" The alien nodded again. "You must choose. Help or Varn wins." Jake shook his head. "Even if I believe you, I'm a soldier. If my command finds you here, we're both dead." The alien lowered his head. "Then, kill me." There was silence. Only the soft hum of jungle life above could be heard. Then a faint noise. Buzz, buzz, click. Jake jumped up. Max growled again. Outside, something was moving. Jake grabbed his rifle and went to the surface. He peeked through the camouflage netting. His blood ran cold. Drones. 3 Varn scouts were scanning the jungle floor. They weren't human tech. They looked like black spiders with long metal legs and red blinking eyes. Somehow, they had tracked the crystal. Jake ran back underground. The alien was trying to stand, panic in his eyes. "They come," he said. Jake grabbed the crystal. "Then we run." The alien shook his head. "No, you must hide it. If they get it, war spreads." Jake looked at Max, then at the alien. This was the moment. He had to choose. Let the alien die, hide the crystal, and walk away. Or trust an enemy, defy his orders, and risk everything. Jake reached down and pulled the alien's arm over his shoulder. "Let's go," he said. "If we're doing this, we do it together." Max barked once, ready to follow. Above them, the drones moved closer. But Jake, Max, and their strange new guest slipped into the night, running into danger with one chance to change the future. Because Jake had made his decision. He would protect the enemy to stop a greater one. Rain poured from the red sky of planet Verdanus. Lightning cracked in the distance, turning the jungle into flashes of light and shadow. Jake pushed through the wet vines, holding the weak alien, Kale, over his shoulder. Max ran ahead, sniffing the path. They had been walking for hours since they escaped the drones. Jake was tired, soaked, and confused. He didn't know where he was going, only that he couldn't stop. Kale finally pointed to a rock wall covered in glowing moss. There, he said weakly. Behind, safe. Jake brushed aside the moss. A narrow entrance appeared, camouflaged. He stepped inside with Max and Kyle. It wasn't just a cave. It was a chamber, ancient, dark, and full of strange symbols glowing in soft gold. The air felt heavy, like it remembered secrets. Jake helped Kale sit against a smooth wall. Kale looked around. Old place, before war, my people, once free. Jake sat across from him. Now tell me the truth, all of it. Kyle closed his eyes. Long ago, we were like you, free minds, families, dreams. Then the Varn came. He opened his hand, showing the glowing crystal again. They are not alive, not dead. Machines that think. They enter minds, break thoughts, control bodies. Jake leaned forward. You're saying the Zarnak didn't want war with humans? Kyle nodded. We were made soldiers, puppets. Varn use our bodies, like tools. Jake frowned. Then how did you escape? Kyle looked at Max. With help, like yours. He pulled something from his chest armor, a photo. It was old and torn, but Jake could see it. A young human woman holding hands with a Zarnak child. Jake was stunned. What is that? Kyle's voice was soft. She saved me. Long time ago. A human like you. Jake stared at him. You knew a human before? Kale nodded. She was kind. I was child. War began. She died, but I remember. He looked at the crystal. She gave me this. Said, it chooses truth. Jake stared at the pulsing gem. She gave it to you? He asked. How did she have it? Kale's answer was even more shocking. She found it. Inside an old human, ruined on this planet. Jake stood up fast. Wait. What? Kale nodded. Your kind was here long ago. Silence filled the room. Jake tried to make sense of it. Humans were on Verdanis before? Kale pointed to the wall. Look. Jake turned. The golden symbols moved, rearranging themselves. In the center, a glowing figure appeared. It was a human, holding the same crystal, leading both Zarnak and another unknown alien race, fighting together against dark machines. Jake stepped back. What is this? Kyle whispered. You are not. First, human blood carries memory. The crystal remembers. That's why it chose you. Jake's hands shook. Why didn't anyone tell us this? Kale looked at him. Your leaders may not know. Or they forgot. The Varn hide truths, rewrite history. Jake looked at Max. The dog was quiet, sitting near the wall, ears twitching. Even he could feel it. This place, this truth. It was bigger than war. Jake turned back to Kale. What do we do now? Kale took a deep breath. We find the gate. What gate? Kale pointed to the wall again. The crystal is one of 3. Together, they open the memory gate. It will show how to destroy the Varn forever. Jake was silent. A lost history, an ancient alliance, a machine enemy controlling entire races. And now, he was in the middle of it. Why me? Jake whispered. Kale smiled slightly. Because Max chose you. And Max sees what others don't. Jake looked at Max. The dog wagged his tail once. That was enough. Jake stood. All right, where's the next crystal? Kale's eyes narrowed. Buried. In the ruins of the fallen city. Controlled now. By Varn nests. Jake loaded his rifle. Then, we go. I've already gone this far. Outside, the storm cleared, but the real storm was just beginning. Jake tightened the strap on his backpack and looked over the old city ruins through his binoculars. The fallen Zarnak capital lay below them, half buried in vines, stone, and the dust of war. But it wasn't empty. It crawled with machines. Varn drones patrolled the streets like insects, clicking, crawling, scanning. Huge, spider-like walkers guarded the central building, where the second crystal was hidden. Cale crouched beside Jake, his face tight with worry. They feel it. The crystal. They wait. Max, the dog, growled low. His ears twitched, his body tense. Jake narrowed his eyes. We need to get in and out. Fast. Cale nodded. Only one path. Old sewer line. Hidden. Risky. Jake smirked. Aren't they all? As they crept into the ruined city, thunder rumbled in the distance. The ground was cracked, buildings shattered, but signs of ancient technology still glowed faintly under the dust. Strange alien writing lined the walls. Some human, some Zarnak. They reached a broken grate covered in moss. Cale pulled it loose and pointed inside. Down. Move quiet. Jake dropped in first. Max followed. Then Cale. The tunnels were dark and wet, echoes bouncing off the walls. Max led the way, sniffing and stopping at every turn. Soon they reached a rusty access hatch. Above, Cale whispered. The vault is near. Jake climbed first, slowly opening the hatch. What he saw made his blood freeze. Humans. A group of 5 human soldiers were standing in the middle of the ancient vault, but their eyes glowed red. Jake hissed, Cale, these aren't soldiers. They're infected. Cale climbed up and gasped. Varn, inside them. They are hosts. One of the infected soldiers turned. It smiled, wide and unnatural. It has come, it said in a robotic voice. The traitor, the chosen, the dog. Jake raised his rifle. Run! They bolted back into the tunnels, but behind them, the host soldiers moved like shadows. Fast, twisting, inhuman. One dropped from the ceiling right behind Max, but Max jumped, his teeth sinking into the thing's throat. Jake turned and shot the creature twice. Sparks flew. Max growled and limped away, wounded but alive. Cale shouted, This way! We're close! They burst into a large chamber. At the center, on a floating pedestal, the second crystal glowed purple, but someone was already standing there. Another Zarnak, in full red battle armor. Cale froze. Jake aimed. Friend of yours? Cale whispered. My brother. The armored Zarnak turned slowly, his eyes burning with rage. You chose the humans, he said to Kyle. You betrayed your kind. Cale stepped forward. I chose truth, not slavery. The brother raised his plasma spear. Then die with them. Before Jake could react, Cale charged his brother, shouting something in his native tongue. They clashed, blade to blade, sparks flying. Jake ran to the pedestal. The purple crystal glowed even brighter as he reached for it. It burned his hand, but didn't push him away. The crystal accepted him. A vision flashed in his mind, a map of 3 stars. One lit up, 2 dim. The third one dying, he gasped. Behind him, Cale screamed. Jake turned. Cale was on the floor, wounded. His brother raised the spear to strike the final blow, then came a bark. Max leapt from the side and crashed into the armored warrior, knocking him off balance. Jake fired, 1 clean shot to the head. The armored Zarnak fell. Lifeless. Cale crawled forward, bloody but alive. He was gone long ago, already taken. Jake helped him up. We got the crystal. Cale looked at the glowing stone. Now the Varn will come, all of them. Jake nodded. Let them, we're not running anymore. From above, the sound of mechanical wings grew louder. The chase wasn't over. It had only just begun. The purple crystal was now silent, resting inside a sealed case strapped to Jake's chest. But even silent, it called to something. And that something was coming. Cale leaned against the wall of their hidden cave, his arm bleeding and armor cracked. Max sat beside him, still limping from the earlier fight. The air was heavy, not just from the storm brewing outside, but from what Jake was about to say. We're hitting the hive, Jake announced. Cale looked up, tired. Alone? That is suicide. Jake opened a map on his wrist pad, showing a satellite image of the Varn hive, an underground network beneath the valley, covered by a giant rock dome and guarded by hundreds of sentry machines. "I'm not going to destroy the whole thing," Jake said, "just enough to make them bleed and to plant this." He held up a glowing bomb. Kale blinked. "That's Earth tech, high yield." Jake nodded. "Stolen from my own base before I ran. If we place this near their core AI link, we can break their local hive mind. Maybe save your people too." Kale paused, then slowly nodded. "Then we go together." Max barked once, as if saying, "Count me in." That night they moved like shadows through the valley. Kale guided them to an ancient crack in the rocks. "This tunnel leads to the power heart, very old. They do not know it still exists." As they crawled through the tunnel, Jake noticed the walls were carved with symbols, Zarnak prayers. "This place was a holy site once," Kale said quietly, "before they turned it into a hive." Jake touched one of the carvings. "Let's give it back." They reached a chamber filled with strange, pulsing wires. The air buzzed. Ahead was a glowing platform, Varn energy. Machines moved slowly across it, their bodies smooth, their faces blank. Jake set the bomb near the platform's base. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the chamber. "You should not have come." They turned. From the shadows walked someone they all recognized, Colonel Reese, Jake's former commanding officer. But his eyes glowed red. "Colonel," Jake whispered. Reese smiled. "Jake Morgan, always the rebel. Always thinking he knows better. Now look at you, running with aliens, hiding with dogs." Jake raised his gun. "You're infected." Reese nodded slowly. "I am improved. The Varn gave me peace. No fear, no pain, no lies. And now, I give you mercy." Dozens of drones emerged behind him, guns aimed, claws ready. Kale stepped forward, shielding Jake. "Go, I hold them." Jake shouted, "No, we go together." Kale smiled sadly. "You already saved me, human. Now save others." Kale ran toward the drones, screaming in his own language. Jake hesitated, then grabbed Max and ran. Behind him, the air exploded, with light, fire, and war cries. Jake reached the tunnel again. He tapped the detonator. "Kyle," he whispered, "thank you." He pressed the button. The valley shook, the ground cracked, the sky lit up with fire, and the Varn hive screamed. Later, far away, Jake sat under the stars. Max lay beside him. In his hands were two crystals, one purple, one blue, and a piece of broken red armor. Jake looked to the stars. "One more to go," he said. Max barked softly. The war wasn't over, but the Varn had finally felt pain. Jake didn't return to base through the front gates. He snuck in, through the old waste tunnels beneath Fort Helix, the biggest human outpost on planet Verdanus. Muddy, exhausted, and haunted, he climbed up into the barracks hallway with Max by his side, carrying two crystals. And the truth. No one had seen or heard from Jake in days. The army had declared him AWOL, a traitor. But he wasn't coming back to clear his name. He was coming back to show them everything. Max led the way through the dim hallway toward the control center. Jake had memorized every patrol route, but even so his hands trembled. Not from fear of being caught, but from what might happen next. He inserted a stolen clearance card into the side door of the command chamber. It beeped green. Inside, screens glowed. Maps blinked. Commanders stood around a holotable talking, until Jake walked in. They froze. General Marlowe turned, shocked. "Jake Morgan? You're alive?" Jake threw the sealed case onto the table. "I didn't just survive." Jake said, "I brought the truth." Guards stepped forward with rifles. Marlowe raised a hand. "Let him speak." Jake opened the case. The crystals began to glow, one blue, one purple. The room dimmed. A hum echoed. Then, the crystals activated. A hologram rose above the table, showing the Varn hive, their control structure, the parasite spread, the captured alien minds, and most importantly, a message from a Zarnak scientist. Only the humans have the mental resistance to stop the infection. Their minds are unique, their blood remembers the ancient war. The image of a human holding 3 crystals appeared, surrounded by both alien and human forces standing against the Varn. The commanders whispered in shock. Jake looked around. "We weren't the first to fight them. We've just forgotten." General Marlowe's face darkened. "Where did you get this?" Jake stepped forward. "From a Zarnak rebel. His name was Kale. He gave his life to help us destroy the hive." One officer sneered. "You expect us to believe an alien?" Jake slammed, a fist on the table. "I expect you to believe your own eyes." He pointed at the projection. "This was buried in their ancient vault. This is older than our colonies. And this..." He held up the crystal. "This chose me." Max barked loudly. He stood, between Jake and the guards, protective, firm. But just then, the lights cut out. Sirens began to whine. Jake turned. "What the hell?" From the shadows stepped Colonel Reese, the same man Jake had seen infected before. But now, his uniform was perfect. His eyes, normal, at least until they flickered red for half a second. "Jake," Reese said calmly, "we thank you for bringing back the crystals." Jake's breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean?" "We?" Reese smiled, slow and cold. "You thought the Varn only controlled aliens?" Gasps filled the room. "You're one of them," Jake whispered. "No," Reese said. "I am many of them." Suddenly several officers drew weapons, not at Reese, but at Jake. Max growled. "Take him," Reese ordered. But Max leapt first. He sank his teeth into the closest infected soldier. The room exploded in chaos. Jake rolled behind the hollow table, grabbing the crystal. He shouted, "Activate failsafe." The crystals blinked. A pulse of blue and purple light blasted out, knocking back the infected soldiers, short-circuiting their implants. The real humans stumbled, stunned, but safe. The infected ones screamed. General Marlowe stood frozen. Reese, struggling to stay upright, pointed at Jake with glowing eyes. "This isn't over." Then he vanished in a burst of black smoke. Teleport tech stolen from the Varn. Silence fell. Jake stood in the middle of the room, breathing hard. Max limped to his side, tail wagging weakly. Jake looked at the stunned generals. "The Varn are already inside, and this," he held up the crystals, "is our only chance." Marlowe slowly nodded. "Then we fight." The battlefield was quiet. Too quiet. Above the ruins of Verdanis, the sky had turned a strange silver gray. Clouds twisted like torn metal. Static danced in the air. Everyone could feel it. The Varn were coming. But this time, humanity wasn't standing alone. Across the cliffs, strange ships landed, sleek, organic, glowing softly. From them stepped Zarnak rebels, wearing cloaks instead of armor. Peace symbols marked their weapons, and at their lead was someone Jake never expected to see again. His eyes widened. "Kale?" The Zarnak stepped forward, scarred, limping, but alive. "I lived," Kyle said softly. "Because your dog stayed." Jake looked at Max, who wagged his tail with pride. "Kale, I thought you were gone." Kale held up a small device. "Varn tech. I reversed it. Used it to fake my death." Jake chuckled. "You sneaky alien." Kale smiled. "You taught me that." They turned to face the valley. Machines were crawling over the rocks now. Thousands of Varn units, spider tanks, flying drones, twisted hybrid soldiers, and at the center, a massive construct of steel and shadow. It was the core host, the final mind behind the parasite network. Jake gripped the 2 crystals. "We're still missing the third one." Kyle reached into his armor and pulled out a small red crystal. Jake blinked. You had it the whole time? Kyle nodded. It was buried in me. I was the key. Jake placed the 3 crystals together. They fused, emitting a deep hum that shook the earth. A golden light shot into the sky. Suddenly, ancient ruins all across the valley lit up, revealing hidden towers, gates, and long-dead machines that began to wake. A voice, not human, not alien, echoed from the crystals. Alliance reactivated. Memory link restored. Prepare final defense. Kyle whispered. The old Alliance. They remember us. The rebel Zarnak stood beside the human. Soldiers now, shoulder to shoulder, rifle to rifle. Jake looked at his army, divided by blood but united by truth. Today, Jake shouted, we fight not as enemies, but as survivors, as defenders, as the last hope. The Varn charged. The sky turned red, and the war began. The battle Jake and Kale fought side by side, Jake firing plasma bolts, Kale slicing drones with a glowing blade. Max darted through the battlefield, dragging wounded soldiers to safety, biting at exposed wires and never leaving Jake's side. The ancient towers began to pulse, firing energy blasts that disabled large Varn machines. But the core host moved closer. Its voice spoke inside their minds. You are dust. We are forever. Jake held the crystals up. The core host aimed a beam at him. Max jumped in front of it. The beam struck. Smoke. Silence. Jake screamed, Max! But Max was still alive, burned, wounded, but standing. The crystals in Jake's hand glowed bright white. Then, the fusion began. The crystals formed a single sphere. It floated above Jake's palm. Kale stepped forward and placed his hand on Jake's shoulder. Together, they aimed the sphere toward the core. A final command echoed. Human and Zarnak confirmed. Last resistance approved. System purge, now. The sky exploded. Light poured, down like rain. The Varn screamed, and then they were gone. Silence. Only the wind. Jake dropped to his knees. Max rested beside him, wagging his tail slowly. Kale looked to the stars. It's over. Epilogue weeks later, peace began to rebuild. Humans and Zarnak worked side by side. The alliance was not perfect, but it was real. Kale became the ambassador of the new Zarnak. Jake was honored as a hero, but he refused the medals. He built a quiet home on a hill near the ruins, and Max, he got his own statue, his paw pressed to a crystal. Under it the words read, the dog who barked first and saved everyone.